unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Kick-Ass Nation. It is I, Christopher Rausch, your host of the Raw and Unscripted show, back with you for another delightful episode. Talking tonight about something that might make you guys a little upset, but I'm guessing because you're listening to the show, this may not apply to you, but quite honestly, tonight's conversation applies to all of us. We're going to be talking about maturity in humanity. But stay tuned for that. Hey, welcome to the Raw and Unscripted show. Thank you guys for joining us. We are live on the video cast every single Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's California time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys can join us in the conversation and be able to comment and ask questions and carry along with the conversation with us live. Or, of course, you could choose to listen to us on the podcast. And we are on every single podcast platform you can imagine. And the last time I looked, we were in 98 countries. So thank you from the bottom of my kick-ass, unstoppable, no excuses, loving humanitarian heart to each and every one of you listening to my voice right now. It is imperative more than ever that we look inward and we heal broken traumas. We heal the shit that's got us fucked up, that gets us acting in ways that when we reflect on our life, maybe we're not so proud of. And there's an opportunity that, and you'll never be perfect. I am living example, but I can tell you, when you focus and when you give yourself that concerted effort to become better, to really understand yourself and understand other people, there's a peacefulness that comes. And for many, many years, I was reading books on how to have inner peace, because inside me is a chaotic ADHD on crack time bomb, just going and going and going and going and going and never thinking and never thinking. And then ultimately I started getting to a point where I'm like, I got to analyze some of the thoughts and some of these things that are going on in my brain and get to the root of them. Because so oftentimes we deal in the symptom of a situation. We don't deal in the root. Tonight, we're going to be going back to our childhood. We're going to be talking about our root, because a lot of what fucks us up in our life now are old beliefs that we've carried on from the playground into adulthood. But before I jump into that, I want to tell you guys, and I'm going to tell you guys about last week's show, podcast number 354. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are on our 7th, count them, 7 years of doing the Raw and Unscripted podcast. And I've earned every listener, every single viewer, every single accolade, whatever it might be, because of the blood, sweat, and tears that I poured into this conversation every single week without fail. Well, granted, there have been times where I've done replay episodes because I was sick or because I was on vacation and I didn't have internet access or whatever it might be. But we are on podcast number 355 tonight. Last week, 354, we talked about effort and discipline. That one is getting a lot of positive feedback in the snippets that I'm posting on social media. And we talked about the fact that we don't lack motivation, we don't lack opportunity, we don't even lack time, but we lack clarity. And so I dig deep on that. I talk about willpower. I talk about the fact of when life punches you in the mouth, you have an opportunity to either become a victim and go, oh, look what happened to me, that sucked, oh my God, it hurt so bad, or sit there and say, wow, where'd that come from? And did I cause it? Right? Who are you when it's inconvenient? I talked about that. We talked about the root because we're continuing with that message. We talked about the root, right? Effort doesn't start with motivation. It starts with who you believe you are. We talked about standards and self-trust. We talked about your environment and the energy, right? Digging deep into that, the emotional discipline that it takes, right? And you think about that, the emotional components of that. Talked about the compounding power of repetition. Listen, 1% every single day, 1%, it compounds upon itself. Like you do a little bit better today, you feel a little bit better, you do a little bit better tomorrow, you make a better decision, you don't react so much, you respond, it all builds on itself. And then you look back and you're like, wow, I'm a different person. And I was just commenting to that to somebody recently. And I thought, it's kind of a shame that a lot of people from my past that knew me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it might be, have a certain perspective of who Christopher is. But because I've done that 1% improvement, because I've taken that imperfect action, I'm a different person and I'm happy with that. And sometimes I miss who I was, and I don't even recognize who that person was, but that person was insecure. That person was driven to success by any means possible, and it all served me very well in those moments. But we got to continue to grow. We got to continue to evolve. And that's what I talk about. I talked about adversity, right? All the different things that test our identity, who we are. So I encourage you to go back and listen to that podcast. And here's the thing that I want to stress to everybody, in case you're a new listener to this. This is like class. You show up every single week and you take at least 3 tips, questions, whatever it might be that rings true for you. You take 3 action items and then you apply those during the next 7 days. 7 days, 3 items. I think you can do that. And then every single week you show up and you do another 3 and you do another 3. And that compounding interest, like I said before, really starts to shift your perspective. And I'm not looking for overnight shifts. I'm looking for you just a little bit, just a little. Oh, hey, instead of looking at fucking how dirty the grass is and how, hey, I got grass. Hell, that's pretty cool. Oh, wow. What other things do I have? What other opportunities do I have? Right? It's all about the perspective. Again, looking at it from a victim standpoint, you're going to have a perspective. And you're going to attract people into your life that support that victim mentality. Oh, poor Chris, you were homeless in the 7th grade. Oh, you were 13 years old and you dug through dumpsters. Oh my God, you have every reason to be a drug addict. You have every reason to be in jail. You have every reason to not have relationships. Or you can have people in your life where you're a victor and say, yeah, that doesn't define who the fuck you are, Chris. That was a moment in time. And because of those experiences, you grew and you became stronger and you decided that was not going to be your life moving forward. So you have different groups of people in your life. So I highly encourage you, if nothing else, write out a piece of paper, the 5 people you're around the most, and are they positive or negative? Do they lift you up? Do they make you feel better about yourself or worse? And then you get new people if that's not the case. And I promise you, when you get around new people, shit starts to change. Shit really starts to change. So let's talk about tonight, the truth. Some adults act like children. Because under stress, our nervous system doesn't care how old we are. Stress doesn't ask for your resume. Offense doesn't check your degree. Threat doesn't care about your maturity. Reacting first feels powerful, but it costs in depth, connection, and leadership. So today we're not talking about them. We're talking about the parts of ourselves that still want to win playground fights instead of leading grown-up conversations. Right? I just posted today. And I posted it 7 different ways, but then I thought about it. And I asked the question, when somebody goes neener, what does that say about them as an adult? And I just had somebody do that today. They sent me something on Facebook, didn't type any words, just sent me a video. And I watched the video. And I'll just leave it at that. So I watched the video and I thought, that was a neener thing. Not, hey, Chris, how you doing? Hey, here's a different perspective. Just a jab at me, I guess. I don't know. There was no context with it. So I had to ask, what does that mean? And to me, it means emotional immaturity. It means, oh, here, I got some proof that shows I'm right. And you know what? I lost even more respect for that person. Because I just thought about it. I'm like, why? What do you have to prove? What do you have to gain? Like, let's have a conversation around it. Don't just send me some bullshit that I can go Google and find out that there's 7 different things about it that are inaccurate. It makes you look stupid. It makes me lose respect for you. So when you think about it, segment 1 right here, we're going to talk about when adults regress to the playground. And so I want to talk about emotional age versus chronological age, right? Developmentally, emotional maturity can lag behind physical age, even into adulthood. Neuroscience shows the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for impulse control and judgment, isn't fully developed, and I've talked about this before, isn't fully developed until the age of 25. But emotional maturity is experience dependent, not age defined. Right? Would you say you're somebody who is an emotional, mature person? And I know people that will answer that honestly and go, yeah, for the most part, not really. Sometimes I have my moments. So when you think about it, you can have 2 adults that are the same age, but have very different emotional responses to stress because maturity is practiced and it's not inherited. Right? How many people have you seen standing in line and speaking to the customer service agent and stomping their feet but I want what I want when I want it? I grew up with that. My mother was exactly like that. She was one of the most strongest, intelligent, powerful women that I ever met. But deep down inside, she was a fucking 4-year-old. And you know how I know she was 4, not 5, not 6, not 7? Because admittedly, she would tell me, I'm only 4 years old. And I'm like, Mom, you're a fucking intelligent person. Why in the shit would you say that? And then it caused me to think about that over the years. And when I wrote my memoir, which is going to be out this year, It's Just You and Me, Kid, it's just you and me kid.com. You guys can go check it out. A little preview excerpt of what it's going to be about, but it's basically about my life and the emotional maturity that I had to experience at the age of 9 years old, all the way up through where I'm at today. And so I thought about it, 4 years old. I'm like, oh, what happened at 4 years old for her? Oh, her parents got divorced and she had to go live with her psychotic mother who had 6 different psychological disorders that are classified, I guess, in the DSM, something like that. Psychological disorders. Yeah. My mother actually wrote them out for me. She goes, I want to write these out for you in case you ever go see a psychotherapist or whatever. And you could tell them that this runs in your family. And I said, it doesn't run in my family. It may run in your family, but it doesn't run in mine. And guess what? I've dedicated my life to learning, to continually learning. I have a shitload of books over here. I have a shitload of books in the other room. I've donated a ton of books. I have books on my Kindle. I'm constantly voraciously learning and growing and understanding myself and other people all the time. Why? Because I care. And because this life is for us to grow through, not go through. So when you think about it, what's your emotional maturity? And what is it that you're doing? Are you responding or reacting? And I can tell you, I tell my friends, like, push in the clutch. For anybody who knows how to operate a stick shift, you push in the clutch and there's a pause where you get to shift the gear, right? You pause, you let off the gas, you shift the gear. I say that. I tell people to pump the brakes. For anybody who's driven a car with bad brakes, you got to pump the brakes in order to stop. You have to think about it. You have to prepare to stop. And the same thing goes in life. You see a post. And I'm not perfect. I wanted to make this disclaimer for anybody listening. I am fucking not perfect. There are so many times where I type out a response and I'm like, and then I stop and I pause and I think, okay, I'm reacting. Why am I taking this personal? When you think about it, why am I taking this personal? Whatever the situation is going on, why am I taking this personal? And I can almost promise you that the situation reminds you of a spot where you were vulnerable and you were taken advantage of, or that you were picked on. Or that's why the current administration is there's so many people that are a fan of it, because they want the man to give it to the politics. They want the man to give it to the big government and all that other stuff. There's a lot of psychological shit that's going on with why people like Trump. And generally, I don't like to say his name. I just say the current administration. So for you, here's the key thing. Are you responding or are you reacting? And I know sometimes for me, I react in front of my son and I think, okay, am I setting the example for how I want him to be in these situations? And when he was younger, I thought, okay, no big deal. He's not going to register that. But now he's 9 years old and he's registering that. How do I know that? Because I see how he reacts when he gets frustrated. He does the same thing I do or my wife does. He'll yell at the thing and get frustrated. And I do the thing to release energy. But when I'm seeing him do it, I'm like, ooh, I don't think I set a good example with that. But also I teach him about deep breathing. I'm like, hey, when you run into a situation, how can I look at this from a different angle? Because so often we look at it from the angle of our personal vested interest in it. But sometimes we can sit there and say, you know what, if my friend was going through the same situation now and I was observing it, what advice might I have for that person? And yet we have to have cooler heads. So here's something that you could do when you're in those frustrating situations and you feel like you're about to blow over. You just stop and you say, you know what? I really care about this conversation. You know what? I am very emotional right now. And I feel like anything I'm going to say, I might regret. So can I have a little bit of opportunity to think about this so I can respond effectively? So I can really give this some thought and think about what it is you said. Because so oftentimes the person's saying something and we're not listening to the words they're saying. We're looking at their body language. Or we're inferring it if we're reading it on a text or an email, which God forbid you guys fucking do. Like, don't have serious conversations over text and email. You're on the phone, like, just pick it up. If you have the time to text, you have the time to talk. Oh, I don't want to do that. It's uncomfortable. Yeah, fuck off. Pick up the phone and say, you know what? I care about this relationship so much that let's talk. Oh, you know what? I don't have time right now. It seems like you have time to fucking text at me. Because we infer so much when we read the words and we just see what we want to see. Again, based on our childhood experiences on the playground, because again, our emotional maturity didn't even happen until we're 25. But listen, People, what did they say? Oh, stop being angry, stop being sad, stop crying. Nobody ever really teaches us how to regulate our emotions. And so what do? We have to go through our life making those mistakes and blunders and screwing up personal relationships and work relationships and customer relationships, whoever it might be, because of our response or our reaction to it. So when you think about this, here's a couple of questions. When do I feel the smartest? Under pressure or in calm? You think about that. And it does take effort, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I started working out. That's why I started doing breath work. That's why for a while I was on Zoloft, because I needed help, or I was self-medicating with alcohol or anything else. So here's another question. Who do I know who behaves younger than their age? And what triggers them? We've talked a lot in recent episodes about triggers. Somebody said, oh, they push my buttons. And I'm like, why do you have buttons to push? Why do you have buttons to push? And some people walk around with their buttons. Oh my God, it makes me so mad. Guess what? Next time I get mad at you, I'm going to use that. But what would it be like? Let me ask you that question. What would it be like if you didn't get so angry and so snappy and then so, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. Right? I've had people in my life get really angry and say some shit that they didn't mean it. But when whoever the fuck came up with the saying, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I used to say so many creative things for that person, whoever came up with that, but that's bullshit. Once the words land, you can't take them back. Yes, you can apologize and say, I'm sorry, I really didn't mean that, but there's a lot of truth in that. And I've had to listen to people say that to me, and then they come back, oh, I really didn't mean that. I'm like, the fuck you didn't. I saw your face when you said it. You said it repeated. Oh, it's not you, it's me. I'm blowing things out of proportion. But deep down inside, they really feel like that. Otherwise, those words wouldn't have come out. So you do emotional damage. And yes, it's okay to come back and say, I apologize, I reacted. But if you do it multiple times, that's an excuse. And for anybody listening or watching, they know, or listening, I'm holding up a wristband that I sell that says no excuses on one of them. And guess I am. Fuck all the way off if that's just how you are. I don't want to relate to you. I don't want to have you in my life if that's just how you are. You're an asshole sometimes. No. Every once in a while you have a bad day. Sure. No problem. But if there's a path, guess what? I don't trust you anymore. And then if I don't trust you, maybe I don't like you. And if I don't like you, I don't respect you. And then why would I have you in my life? So why we revert under stress? Because of the fight or flight freeze response. It's primitive. It's in our wiring, right? So under threat, the brain prioritizes safety over reasoning. Even social threat triggers the same circuits as a physical threat. So often we don't think your life. What are you going to do? Are you going to choose to respond? Or are you going to choose to react? Right? What bodily sensations show up when you feel attacked? Oh man, I start to feel hot in my head. My ears start to burn. My hands to sweat. Well, those are signals for you to say, hey, you know what? Hey, I forgot I got to make a phone call right now. Can I just get back to you in 20 minutes? Go in the bathroom and fucking scream or do whatever you got to do some deep breathing, come back out and say, all right, you know what? I've had a really rough day and I'm probably taking this a little bit more emotionally than I should. Let's start over. Let me hear exactly what the point is. And then let's talk about it. You see what I'm saying? But so oftentimes, what do? We don't listen to what the person's saying. We start building our response up in our mind. And if somebody is attacking us, what are we going to do? Again, going to that primal instinct, we're going to attack back. We're not going to listen to what the person says. We're not going to even hear the truth that probably is in it or try to explore more of that. We're going to react and we're going to do what? We're going to make them feel like shit because they made us feel like shit. So when you think about it, being right feels safer than being curious. Right? And I talk about this. Do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? That's my mom. She had to be right. And guess what? When you are right, what does that make everybody else wrong? And half the time, none of us are really right or wrong. It's just our life, our perspective, our experiences. Again, going back to my mother, who I think about a lot in this particular episode, right? I had to sit there and think about what it must have been like to grow up in her life at the time she was born, with the parents she was born to, with the social and political and economic, whatever times that were going on back in 1942. Might I have been like her had I experienced those experiences? Yeah. Would I be like you if I experienced your experiences, grew up in your religion, grew up in your house, grew up in your politics, grew up with your parents? Right? You think about being right feels safer than being curious. It's called cognitive dissonance, which drives defensiveness. If your identity is tied to a belief, a challenge feels personal. Listen to this. Social psychologist Leon Festinger, we protect beliefs even against evidence. I could stop the show right now. We protect beliefs even against evidence. And people are always trying to prove their evidence. Oh, here's another soundbite. Here's another thing out of context. Like, what are you really trying to prove? What fucking good does it do? Like, that guy sending me that message did absolutely nothing. And if it did something, if I took it the wrong way, he was calling me a dumbass. I could take it all sorts of different ways. He didn't type anything. It just shows me he just wanted to prove his point and get on with his day. He probably sent it out to 70 people. Ha, 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 ha. I'm vindicated. I was right. Back in 2020, I'm a fucking medical expert because I knew I was right. Whatever. Like, think about what it is that you're doing. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? If you're just trying to accomplish being right, think about accomplishing something different. How about thinking, how can I strengthen this relationship? If I really truly care about this person, what is I'm trying to do? If I don't want to bring the actual context of what it was up because it's not that important, but think about this. Curiosity reduces threat, but feels risky because it exposes uncertainty. And we as human creatures love the certainty. Why? Because it's predictable and it keeps us safe. I know what's going to happen. I know how I can react to it. Like, be curious. When you're a kid, you didn't fucking care what you said. You ask questions. Why did you say that? So many times we don't even say that. We just keep it in, oh yeah, that person thinks this of me, that. And I do it. I've created full stories in my head, what somebody thought. And then I found out it had nothing to fucking do with me. But yet I created the whole story. I did that just recently. And I sat there and I thought about it. I'm like, I'm fucking creating a story. Why am I doing that? And then I started digging. Why? Because I learn and I grow and I have tools in my toolbox. I'm like, wait a minute, this is interesting. Why have I created this whole fucking story? What about this story could be inaccurate? I started asking myself, I'm like, that could be wrong. That could be wrong. What if it has nothing to fucking do with me? But now I've spent days and days and days and hours and thinking about it and pondering it, but not even talking to the person, just living in my own hell, feeling like I'm not worthy, right? Having all these different things that in my head about what was going on and it has nothing to do with me. Because I talked to my wife and I said, do you think it has anything? Like, nope, that's just the way they are. I'm like, okay, what if I started telling myself a different story? Then I'm not wasting so much time thinking about something that isn't even accurate, that has nothing to do with me. But again, we're trying to prove. And I'm with you guys. Sometimes I'm trying to prove stuff. I'm trying to subtly prove stuff. I'm trying to knock somebody upside the head gently but lovingly. So think about it. Do I defend my beliefs more than I explore them? Why do I believe that? And I challenge people on that. And guess what? Half the time is they don't know the answer. So then they get mad. I don't know what you're talking about. Or they try to change the subject. Here's another question that you can ask yourself. What would it cost me to say, help me understand your view? Help me understand your view. Or another way of looking at it is, can you tell me more about that? Or can you say it differently so I can understand it if I were a 9-year-old? That's my favorite thing to say right now. It's like, explain it to me as though you were explaining to my son. And then people have to stop and think about what it is that they're going to say, as opposed to saying it how they always say it. Because we all have our bottled sentences that we say. But when I say, can you say it differently so my 9-year-old can understand it? And then they say something and I'm like, okay, if my 9-year-old were here, what question would he ask? Why is that true? Or why do you think that? Right? Again, curious. You're not putting somebody on the defensive. You're saying, help me understand that part. Like, people use words and I'll just say, what do you mean by that word? What is your definition of that word? Like, somebody will say it's so hard. And I'm like, what's hard? Define what hard is. A majority of the time, the person describes the word, they realize that they don't even themselves have an accurate understanding of what it is, or they've blown it out of proportion because it's just easy to say that word. Right? So oftentimes we can have sympathy and compassion. If somebody is acting the fool, acting like a 6-year-old on the fucking playground, you can sit there and say, oh man, damn, they must put their foot in their mouth a lot. You know what? Let me have some compassion and understanding for this person. Maybe let me be the person that doesn't fucking antagonize them, because people sit there and say, Chris, you're such a great listener. And I'm like, I'm just curious. Plus half the time back in the day, that was my way of diffusing my anger, is to sit there and say, tell me more about it. And then I would challenge myself. Okay, listen, Chris, don't formulate your responses to this. Really listen. And then I would sit there and how can you listen with empathy and compassion for that person? Man, if I would have walked in their shoes, tell me about your childhood. What was that like? Oh my God. Okay. 2 and 2 makes 4, 4 and 4 makes 8. Oh, I can see where they might have come up with that ideology. If their parents were like that and the people they grew up with and their socioeconomic, political, whatever, religious, sexual orientated house, all the different labels you can put on it, right? How can I understand your view? And reactivity feels so damn good because there's a dopamine hit. The neuroscience. Outrage triggers reward circuits. We feel good when our side wins. And I will tell you this, I'm not a big sports dude. And I stopped going and watching sports in public places probably over a decade ago. The last time I watched a playoff or a Super Bowl in a public place, the guys this is a true fucking story. I was just telling this on Super Bowl Sunday. The guys at the table over there were like, oh yeah, look at us. We're fucking great. Da, 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 for like 3/4 of the game. And then the other team started whooping their ass. Guess what changed about what it is that they were saying? Before it was, look at us, look at how great we are. Oh, why'd you guys do that? Oh, da, da, da. It became external. Immediately, it was evident. And I said, oh, I thought it was you guys that were making all those mistakes because you were taking all the credit for it. I almost got my ass kicked by like 7 dudes. No word of a lie. My wife was there. I think she might have been my girlfriend at the time. That was the last time I went. He goes, oh, look at us. I mean, people like that. And if that's you, that's fine. It's great to be a part of something. But you think about it. How about let's not have a winning side? I know in sports, there's got to be a winner, loser, all that different things. But how about let's not try to win the argument? How about let's sit there and seek first to understand, which I apply in my life all the time. Seek first to understand. Oh, okay. I got you. I really understand that person. You paraphrase back to them. And guess what? They disarm their emotional reactions, their triggers. Stop from going activate to, oh, this guy's different. Maybe I can share something with them. Oh yeah. You know what it really started from? Man, there was this time I was embarrassed by my teacher in front of 75 people in front of the whole school. And from that point forward, I've always felt like I had to win the argument. And I've had to do that multiple times in my corporate career. For anybody who doesn't know, I was a corporate guy for 30 years, whatever it was. So many times people would come in there with that, I got a title, I got a corner office, I'm wearing a tie, whatever it is, I got power. And I'd have to sit there and understand them. I'm like, okay, who is this person on the playground? How can I effectively deal with them? How can I cater somewhat to their personality and have them know that I get them so they don't have to be an asshole about it? Right? So when you think about that, it's super important. There's so much on this conversation. I took so many notes and thinking about brainstorming this out, right? Emotional regulation is leadership. So pause before responding, right? Physiological pause gives the prefrontal cortex a chance to re-engage. Deep exhale, counting to 10, right? I promise you, when you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, and you do that 4 times, and then you choose in your mind, you know what? I'm going to choose to be the bigger person in this situation. I know I could win. I know I can make this person feel like shit, but I'm not. And then you start doing more of that and you start understanding, you're like, oh, wow, that was a trip. And still you may be 100% right, but are you happy? Because you only get so many moments in this world, guys. You only get so many moments. When I was thinking about the story I was building about the situation going on in my life, how much time did I waste? that I could just been looking around going, fuck, man, my ceiling fan's cool. My lights are cool. Got to work on that. Yeah, that's pretty. I got all my CDs over there. I still got music in case the fucking internet crashes. How cool is that? I got, right? You're so concerned by shit that doesn't even involve you, but you're wasting your time in your life. And that time builds up. And then you look back on your life. And I know a lot of people. I'm going to be 57 in a couple of weeks. I know a lot of people who are looking back in their life going, man, I wish I'd have done it differently. They fucked themselves out of 17 jobs, but they were right. They were right. And now they're old and depressed. I'm like, man, I wish I would. What would you go back and change? You know what? I would have worked on my relationships. I wouldn't have been so angry all the time. I wouldn't have, used alcohol or whatever it might be. So when you think about the question you can ask yourself in this situation is, what's my pause strategy? What's my pause strategy? It could be simple. You know what? I got to go to use the restroom. I'm so sorry. I have to pee again. I drank a bunch of water earlier. I've used that so many times. It allows me a few minutes to walk there and go, man, that guy's really pushing why is that? Well, okay. I'm going to go back and I'm not going to say, okay. Or I'm going to say this. What's your pause strategy? And then ask yourself, do you pause long enough to think or long enough to feel? Think or feel? So when you think about that, how can you separate facts from feelings, right? When you think about facts inform, feelings motivate. You conflate them and clarity dies. So acknowledge the emotion first and then explore the evidence. So when you think about the questions, you can ask yourself, what feelings am I bringing to the conversation? Anger, animosity, resentment, whatever. Oh, where is this being triggered from? Oh yeah, I've been put in this situation so many times in my life and I'm not going to be put there again. You're not going to put baby in the corner. And then you can ask yourself this question, especially before you post shit on the internet, what facts have I actually checked? And I got people in all areas of my life, guys. Pro administration, against the administration, Republican, Democrat, vax, no vax. I got people on all sides. And as long as you're not an asshole about it, you're still in my life. And there's a few people who are fucking skating, but I'm keeping them there so I can watch and I can learn. And I honestly pray that I see something. Even with somebody recently, I sent them a voice message and I said, what would it take? Again, curious, because I felt like I was getting frustrated. I'm like, well, let me understand this. Maybe there is something. I'm like, what would it take for you to change your mind about this person? What would it actually take? Because everything, just defend. There's so much evidence that's still defending. So it tells me something about their character. It tells me something about their integrity. It tells me about the person they really are. And I don't want to think that about them because all the other evidence in the life of they lead seems like they're really awesome people. But it makes me question. It makes me doubt. So I keep them there and I'm like, oh, no, still fucking God damn it. Come on. But some people I've seen like, there's been a turn, there's been a tide. And sometimes it takes 10 years for me to see that. And I'm like, fucking hell. And then half the time they come back to me and they're like, oh, Chris, I remember something you said. I get that all the time. Yeah, I remember something you said. Right? So how about curiosity as strength? Right? When you think about curious questions, diffuse defensiveness and assumptions fuel conflict. And I know one of my buttons is when somebody takes things I've done or somebody's done out of context and they build this whole plan and then they sit there and submit their case. I'm like, okay. Tell me more about that. But tell me more about that. Where did you get your facts? Right? What would it be like if that was totally inaccurate? Chris, there's no way it's inaccurate. Okay, that tells me something. Tells me something about your openness, your willingness to change. Tells me something about who you are as a person. So when you think about this, what's one question that I can ask before I argue? Think about this. You should be writing these down. Create a toolbox. I have a fucking whole Evernote. I use Evernote. I have a whole thing of questions to ask myself, questions to ask my guests, questions, different categories of questions. I've actually interviewed a guy. He's going to be on my show again. He wrote books on questions. So when you think about that, what's the one question I can ask before I argue? And you can just say, let me understand that better. Explain it to me as if I was a 6-year-old, whatever it might be. And then you can ask yourself, what would curiosity look like in this moment? What would curiosity look like in this moment? Because you got to sit there and think about this, right? And another thing you got to do is also regulate your body. You got to think about your heart rate's going, your breathing's going, your posture, everything. Again, 80%, 87%, 85% of communication is through our body language. How we say the words, how our face is. I've had to learn to smile when I'm listening to people because I found out I had resting, uninterested, could care less face. I saw myself in a picture or interview. I was sitting in a meeting and I'm like, I look like I could fucking care less, but I remember being really engaged in that conversation. So I put the question on myself. If people are looking around the room, and they look over at Chris, I'm like, but I'm really interested. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe I didn't have coffee. I don't know what it might be, but you got to look at yourself. So again, those breaths, don't do it like you're sitting there like fuming. And you could ask yourself the question, what physical cues tell me that I'm activated? My ears are hot. I can feel my blood rising. My mouth is getting dry. My heart's racing. My hands are sweating. So when you think about that, so again, this is all about emotional responsibility. Responsibility doesn't equal blame. It equals ownership. And you guys, anybody who's listened to the show for a long time know that when I talk about blame, like, oh, it's their fault, it's their fault, it's their fault. Like, no. What ownership do you have in it? How can you be responsible? Right? I teach people how to be responsible. I teach people how to be resourceful. I teach people how to stop excuses and get results. I'm a coach. By the way, here's a little commercial. I have a group coaching program that I do twice a month. I also have one-on-one coaching. So if you dig what I do here and you want to do it on a one-on-one basis and you never had a coaching call with me, here's your little advertisement. Reach out to me. There's 98 countries listening to me right now. I know some people will reach out. Send me an email. Here's the instructions. info@noexcusescoach.com. I will gift you a coaching session. Because when you coach with people and you're held accountable, and people like me who are really good at ask you questions and give you assignments and give you things to think about, guess what? You change. And I've been doing this group coaching program. It started off as an accountability workshop. I've been doing that. There's been 2 participants that have been in it for nearly 2 years. Other people came and went, oh, Chris, I'm going to be back. I can't tell you. I probably had 20 people tell me and promise me. I promise, Chris, I'm just going to take a couple. Have never been back. And I know exactly why. It's not about money. It's not about time. It's because I held their ass to the fire and it was uncomfortable for them to change. They weren't ready. They didn't want to do it. Made them feel weak, whatever it might be. None of the people that said they were coming back came back. And I've had people tell me multiple times, Chris, you're my coach. You're the best. You're so awesome. They don't watch the podcast. They don't check on my posts. They don't do anything. But every time I check in with them, I'm the greatest thing since fucking canned beer. Right? So victim mindset externalizes accountability. Maturity internalizes learning. Ooh, does that sting? Let me say it again. Victim mindset externalizes accountability. Maturity internalizes learning. So here's a question for you. What reaction was mine to own this week? And I catch myself sometimes. I'm passive aggressive. I will mutter shit under my breath. God damn it, fucking shit's on the floor. I got to own that. Did that really solve anything? That just made me look like a petty ass. If that was so important to me, maybe, yeah, I should sit down and say, you know what? I'm so sorry that I keep doing that under my breath. But here's the situation. It really frustrates me when I have to ask something 7 times to have it happen. Let me explain something to you. When I see clutter, my brain goes, and I wish it didn't go, but it does. And it frustrates me because I pride myself on keeping myself clean. And you just have a conversation about it. But hoping, wishing, and praying. And the phrase I love the most is people, oh, they should just know. I've given them all sorts of signs, Chris. I don't understand why they don't get it. Maybe they don't get it because you're being a dick about it, and that's their game. But once you confront it, and I don't mean confront in an asshole way, once you address the situation, you sit there and say, hey, can I have a conversation with you? There's something that's been really bugging me, and I've done a shitty job of talking to you about it. And I've been passive aggressive about it, and I don't want to do that anymore because I care about our relationship and I care about you. And it doesn't make me feel good when I look back on the things that I'm doing and I realize I've been a dick about it. And I've been thinking that you should get it, but you're not. So help me understand this. Like, why does this happen? And then you find out it's not intentional, right? I've seen people with ADHD all the time. I've got it. There's different types. And some people just leave a trail of shit. And you're like, how did you not fucking put that away? I can see exactly what you did. But they're just on the one thing and all that and that and that and that and that and that. They don't have the wherewithal to sit there and think, oh, yeah. And then they come back and they go, oh, shit, I fucking left all that stuff out. Oh, there's another thing. I've read tons and tons of books on ADHD. Dr. Gabor Mate. I found ADHD, seriously, I got diagnosed with it in my 30s. So I'm going to be 57. You can do the math. I thought that was a neurological thing, like just like my synapses are firing real quick. No, it's an emotional trauma thing. Attention deficit. Like, I would love to see, it would probably be fucking soul crushing, but I would love to see the first 6 months of my life as a baby. I probably wasn't. I know I wasn't held. I wasn't loved. I was yelling and screaming, and there was poverty, all sorts of stuff. My first 6 months. I didn't have that hardly in my life until I met my first wife. Thank you, Tammy and Michelle and Barbara and all the other people in my life who taught me how to love and were patient with me. Fucking hell, man. No. Yeah, I didn't know it. I didn't grow up with it. I'd see it on the television. I'm like, that looks really cool. I guess it's good for them. So again, what reaction is mine to own this week? And what lesson did I miss because I blamed someone else? Right? Who are you blaming? Right? Oh, they're dead now. Write them a letter. I don't know. Go talk to a therapist. Have you talked to somebody? I just saw my screen blank. Hopefully that's okay. All right. What else do we got? How about disengaging without dehumanizing? So yes, you can disagree without devaluing dignity. Dehumanization increases polarization and psychological pain. So what do I need to disengage from without despising them? And I'm seeing, I use the phrase on Sunday, throw the baby out with the bathwater. And somebody funnily said, there's a word. How do you say that? Somebody interestingly said, yeah, that's actually a thing. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because I guess this whole thing about dirty bathwater, I don't even know what it is. So who do I need to disengage from? Again, look at the company you're keeping. Are you a bunch of around people who are blaming other people and victims? Are you you're keeping company with? How about this? Can I hold both disagreement and respect at the same time? It's a tough one lately. How about this? Practicing discernment without arrogance. Oh my God. Right? I talk about sometimes confidence versus arrogance. Do you know what the difference is? I would love to know. Type in the chat. What's the difference between confidence and arrogance? And oh, by the way, here's another commercial for you. Please, if you're not watching this on YouTube, please, and you haven't seen my YouTube shorts or my walk and talks or all the other over 1,000 videos I have done over the years I've had my YouTube channel, please go to youtube.com/the Christopher Rausch, RAUSCH. Or you can go to Google, whatever it is, and type the little number sign, hashtag, no excuses coach, all one word. All sorts of stuff will come up. But I would love and appreciate, if you're getting value out of this podcast and this episode and all the other ones, do me a solid, go hit the subscribe button, hit the alert notifications bell to get all my notifications, and comment on this video. Comment on a couple of videos, because you know what? It's not an ego thing for me. Guess what it does? It gets those videos in front of other people so that I can fulfill my lifelong legacy of making a difference in this world in a positive way for the experiences that I've had, for all the relationships and the things that I've done wrong, which are plenty, and I still continue to do it. I have to listen to the words I'm saying right now, because chances are in the next 72 hours, I'm going to be in a situation where I'm like, huh? And for me, I know my big trigger is when I get behind the wheel of my car. For some reason, I get behind the wheel and I just think everybody's going to use their turn signal. Everybody's going to think, everybody's going to be nice and let people cut in and and they don't. And then I just like, oh my God, you fucking idiots. And I blow up. And I'm not proud of that. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing just when I do it in the car by myself, because I'm like, really, Chris, that's not who you are. I just actually bought a shirt. No shit. I just bought a shirt, free hugs. That's who I am. I just bought it. It was on Amazon. I saw it, $15, free hugs. I'm sure my wife's gonna be like, what? Yeah, that's who I am. On the back of my truck, it says Unity, There I have a sticker that says unity, including all religions, da, 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 da. And I have another one right below it that says one love. Rastafarian, Bob Marley shit. So that's who I am. But I know that I get triggered when I get behind the wheel. So guess what? When I get behind the wheel, not perfect, probably less perfect than I am. But when I get behind the wheel and I stop for a second, again, that momentary pause of reflection, Chris, you're about to get in your vehicle. You're in your vehicle. Guess what? There are people out there who have had 2 hours of sleep. There are people out there working 3 jobs. There are people out there living, that they're doing Uber, they're doing this, they're doing DoorDash, they're doing 17 different things in their car to make extra money because what? AI is taking their job. Or greedy people with egos the size of fucking football fields have to have 17 houses with 13 bathrooms in them to show how successful and how great they are. God is my witness. I wish all the rich people who had too many houses and too many cars and too many things to prove how successful they are took all that money and took all that strength and all that wisdom and that intelligence and all combined it and said, hey, let's fix the mental health problem in our world. Can you imagine Elon Musk and the Microsoft guy and all these all the people, and they all got together and said, you know what? Hey, let's fucking fix mental health. Right? Why? Oh, big pharma wouldn't like that. Here's a fucking really stupid thought. Not stupid thought, but the antidepressant industry, antidepressants. Oh, I'm going to get antidepressants. So I want what? Be depressed. That is more pills are dispersed and people are still fucking more depressed than ever. The system is broken. The system is broken. So what can we do? Guess what? If we all got together and started taking care of ourselves a little bit better, drink water. Beautiful, fresh, cold water. Your body's like 85% water. If you're not drinking enough water, you're feeling like shit. Oh, I drink 17 cups of coffee a day. Wow. How's that working out for you? Yeah, I'm a coffee person. Really? No, that says a lot more about you. What's going on? Why aren't you getting good enough sleep? What is it that you're counteracting? So many questions, so much to do. But guess what? I've been going for a while. So let's think about this. Discernment is wise evaluation, not rigid judgment. Arrogance shuts down options. Discernment widens them. So here are your final questions. What's a belief I can test again with humility? And here's another one. How do I balance confidence with curiosity? You can't control the playground. You can't control what others say or how they say it or how they act. But you do control whether you engage like an adult or regress to the sandbox. Emotional maturity isn't about perfection. It's about responsibility. There's that R word again, darn it. How quickly you calm yourself, how much curiosity you choose, how you connect instead of react. So this week, when you're feeling triggered, I want you to pause. I want you to breathe. I want you to ask a question before you answer and grow up, because it's not easy. But you know what? It works. So there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, this could be a 3-hour episode, but what I try to do, and I'm doing more of it, is I constructed my notes to try to build a flow that reaches a conclusion. So listen to it again, watch it again. If you're listening to it, watch it. If you're watching it, listen to it, right? Write down those questions. Make a promise to yourself. Here's something new. Make a promise to yourself. And you know what? Chris gave me a bunch of questions and a lot of things to think about today. We're just going for 48 minutes. Take out a piece of paper, write them down, put them on a sticky note, put them on your monitor, put them on your dashboard. For the next 7 days, sit there and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to ask that question 10 times. And if I answer, when I ask it 10 times, I'm going to give myself a little reward. I'm going to feel good about myself. I'm going to feel good about myself because I'm not reacting. I'm actually responding. And that I actually care about the people around me and I care about the example that I'm setting. And more importantly, the legacy that you get to leave behind. When I think about it, and I think if I died tomorrow, and who would show up and what would they say? I've talked about this before, how I changed my life back in 2008 when I went to a funeral And I sat in the back of the church. I haven't told the story in a while. I sat in the back of the church. I went to a coworker's funeral, and I knew her and I interacted with her, but I didn't know her. And everybody was getting up there and crying and saying what a beautiful person she was and how many different things she did outside of work, and really just, wow, what a beautiful human being. And I thought, okay, if I died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? And at that point, I thought 10 or 15 people would show up with Miller Genuine Draft, because that's the beer I drank back then, and Jack Daniels and Motley Crue and Rat and Bon Jovi records. And they would talk about all the stupid shit Chris did. This was back in 2008 when I did this. And then I drove home and I'm like, is that how I really want to be remembered? At that point, I wasn't even like that. But in 2008, I was much different than I am here in 2026. And so I went home and I wrote my eulogy, which is something I'm actually going to revise. I haven't done it since 2008, but I'm going to revise it. But again, I thought, man, if people, I've changed so much, but still, if I died tomorrow, some people would still show up and think, oh, he was like this and he was like that. But they never got to see the new me. They never got to see the way I've changed and evolved, because they're like, Chris is like that. And, whatever Chris does, whether it was my drinking or it was my sense of humor, I did stupid stuff so much. I said so many stupid things trying to be funny. Like back when it was a different time, back when you couldn't get canceled, I still know all the inappropriate jokes. For some reason, those stay in my head, but I can't think of any new jokes. It's weird, but it made me sad. So what did I do? I did something. I reached out to 3 people that I've known for, one of them I've known since I was 16. Another one I've known since I was 23, 24. Another one I've known, Jesus Christ, I've known that guy. I hired him and he just celebrated his 27-year anniversary at work. So yeah, I've known him. So these people, all cumulatively like 100 years experience. And sadly, I thought, they would show up and they would still know me as the other me. They know me that I've changed and stuff like that. I'm not saying that, but we have not super strong, frequent relationships. But I thought, I'm going to extend the olive branch and I'm going to reach out. And I was very disappointed. I just thought, oh, wow. And it made me reflect like, okay, I still have work to do and I still can continue to be a work in process. You are a work in process. By the fact that you made it through this entire episode and you're listening to this now says that you care about yourself and you care about the people in your life. So give them the best of who you are. Give yourself the best of who you are. It starts with liking yourself. It starts with loving yourself. It starts with taking care of yourself. It starts with getting the emotional trauma out and talking to a therapist. God is my witness. I have it down on my thing to go talk to a therapist. I haven't talked to a therapist in years, but I really think with everything that's going on in the world and aging and these different perspectives I have, that I need to talk to somebody. That even learning and YouTube videos just won't get it. For me just to be able to say it to a complete stranger and go, here's my fear. Here's what I'm scared of. Here's where I feel vulnerable. Here's where I have regrets. I don't know. And go talk to somebody and have them sit there and ask me questions back and let me be the person that gets to receive the help as opposed to give it. And you may be that person. So it's time for you to receive. Okay. And here's what I want to receive from you. If you haven't had a coaching call, hit me up, info@noexcusescoach.com. Get in the group coaching program. It's cheap. I won't even say that. It's inexpensive. It's $50 a month. And it surprises me more people aren't in it, but there is the offer. And then also make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. And lastly, when you got value out of this, I know you did, please share this out. Share this out on social media and say, hey, by the way, I just listened to this. I just watched this and here's what I took from it. Please put some words to it and let people know that I'm here and I'm here to help and I'm here to serve. And I'm here to listen and grow too. So if there's something that I do that triggers you, let me know. Or let me know, please. I would love to know one thing I could do to improve the podcast. What can I do? So there's your assignment, America and the world, 98 countries. Thank you very much. Send me an email, info@noexcusescoach.com, and say, hey, here's one thing I'd like to see you add to the podcast. Here's something that I've been saying for the last 2 episodes, and I'm surprised I actually remembered it. As a new tradition, I've got these cards, Diary of a CEO, conversation cards, where on their show, the last thing they do is the guest that's there leaves a question for the next guest. And so there's all these cards and I love questions. So here's a question that I'm going to answer real quick. Do you do enough to keep learning? So there it is. Do you do enough to keep learning? Pause. Do I do enough to keep learning. I'm constantly learning. Shouldn't say constantly, but every single day, pretty much, right? I've given myself some breaks lately because I have always been, in the books and in the YouTube videos and in the podcasts and in the audiobooks and everything and research and using ChatGPT and using Alexa and all that other stuff. I'm constantly learning. Do I do enough to keep learning? I think so. I'm probably 80%. There's some things that I need to do deeper learning on about peptides and what they can do for my inflammation and my pain. But yeah, am I curious about learning? Yes. Do you do enough to keep learning? And there you have it. There's another episode of the Raw and Unscripted show. I love you, beautiful people. Be back here next week. Again, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go be brilliant. Go be beautiful. Go be the change that you bitch about. And please help me in getting this podcast into more eyes and ears. Stay kick-ass, classy, San Diego.